Most men will never hear what I'm about to say, and even fewer will be ready to accept it. If you think attraction is about confidence, money, age, or experience, stay with me for a moment, because this will challenge everything you believe. Younger women are not drawn to older men for the reasons most people assume. In fact, the traits men try hardest to display are often the very things that quietly repel them. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Attraction doesn't begin when you impress someone. It begins when you change how they feel in your presence. And almost no one teaches this. Most men talk more when they should listen. They pursue harder when they should pause. They prove themselves when their power actually lies in restraint. The men who stand out are not louder, richer, or more dominant. They are calmer, clearer, and deeply grounded. If you've ever wondered why some men effortlessly command attention without trying, why conversations seem to slow down around them, why people remember them long after the interaction ends, this is why. What I'm going to reveal today is not a tactic, not a pickup line, and not a strategy you can fake. It's a psychological shift that completely alters how others experience you. Once you understand it, you'll never approach conversations, relationships, or attraction the same way again. By the end of this video, you'll understand why chasing destroys desire, why self-respect creates gravity, and why the most attractive men don't seek validation. They invite depth. You'll see why emotional safety is mistaken for weakness, why calm is mistaken for boredom, and why the men who ask the least actually receive the most. So stay with me, because this isn't about becoming more impressive. It's about becoming unforgettable. Most men believe attraction is built by declaration, by telling a woman who they are, what they have achieved, what they know, what they can offer. They think value is something you announce. But real psychological power doesn't come from statements. It comes from questions, and not casual questions, not polite curiosity, but deliberate, grounded, emotionally intelligent questions that reveal who someone actually is beneath their presentation. When an older man asks the right question, he is doing something very few people do. He is slowing the interaction down. He is refusing to perform. He is refusing to impress. And that alone creates a shift in power. Because the man who doesn't rush to prove himself is the man who already knows his worth. Younger women are not impressed by men who talk endlessly about their experiences. They are intrigued by men who are comfortable enough with themselves to be curious about someone else without an agenda. That curiosity signals maturity. It signals self-possession. It signals that this man is not trying to extract validation, approval, or reassurance from the interaction. Most conversations are transactional. People speak to be liked. They ask questions to get closer to what they want. But when a man asks a question that isn't designed to flatter, rush intimacy, or steer the outcome, it feels different. It feels rare. And rarity creates attention. A powerful question does not demand an answer. It invites reflection. When a man asks, "What do you actually want right now?" Not what you think you should want. He is asking someone to pause their social conditioning. He is interrupting autopilot. That interruption creates presence, and presence is deeply attractive. Psychologically, the human mind associates depth with safety and leadership. Someone who can hold space for uncertainty without rushing to resolve it is perceived as emotionally strong. This is why questions matter more than statements. Statements close conversations. Questions open them. And the man who opens space rather than fills it is unconsciously seen as leading the interaction. Most men speak to control perception. They want to be seen a certain way. But the man who asks meaningful questions isn't controlling perception. He is observing reality, and observation requires confidence. You don't observe if you're insecure, you perform. This is why younger women are often impressed not by charisma, but by calm curiosity. When an older man listens without interrupting, without correcting, without trying to be impressive, he communicates something powerful without words. He communicates that he is not threatened by another person's thoughts, emotions, or autonomy. And that matters more than most men realize. A well-placed question also reveals standards. When a man asks questions that explore values, self-awareness, and accountability, he is subtly signaling that surface-level answers will not satisfy him. He is communicating that access to him requires depth, and people rise to the level they believe is expected of them. This is why shallow questions create shallow connections, and why deeper questions create polarity. Because depth forces honesty, and honesty is where attraction either strengthens or collapses. Here is something uncomfortable but true. Many men are afraid of asking real questions because they are afraid of the answers. They fear hearing confusion, uncertainty, or emotional complexity because they themselves have not made peace with those things internally. But the man who has done his inner work is not destabilized by another person's truth. He doesn't rush to fix it. He doesn't judge it. He can sit with it. That ability to sit with truth without reacting is interpreted as strength. When an older man asks a younger woman a thoughtful question and then genuinely listens, he is not chasing her attention. He already has it, because attention follows depth. The mind leans toward what feels substantial. This is also why these questions cannot be memorized lines. They must emerge naturally from a grounded internal state. Otherwise, they feel invasive or performative. The intention behind the question matters more than the question itself. Curiosity rooted in self-respect feels safe. Curiosity rooted in insecurity feels manipulative, and people can sense the difference immediately. Questions also reverse the usual power dynamic. Instead of the man trying to qualify himself, he becomes the one evaluating alignment, not in a judgmental way, in a discerning way. And discernment is attractive because it implies choice. A man who chooses carefully is a man who values himself. Younger women are particularly sensitive to this because they are constantly being evaluated, pursued, and consumed for youth and appearance. When they encounter a man who is not trying to take something from them, but instead wants to understand them, it disrupts expectation. Disruption creates intrigue. A thoughtful question also does something subtle but profound. It invites the other person to meet you at your level of consciousness. If they can, the connection deepens. If they can't, the contrast becomes clear. Either way, clarity is created, and clarity is attractive because it eliminates confusion. The man who asks meaningful questions is not afraid of clarity. He is not afraid of discovering incompatibility, because his sense of worth is not dependent on being chosen. This emotional independence is one of the most magnetic traits a man can develop. And this is where many people misunderstand attraction. They think it is built through escalation, through intensity, through momentum, but real attraction is built through regulation, through steadiness, through emotional composure. A grounded question regulates the nervous system. It slows things down. It creates space for authenticity. And authenticity is what people remember long after the conversation ends. Think about the people who left a lasting impression on you. They were not necessarily the loudest or most impressive. They were the ones who made you think, who made you reflect, who made you feel seen without being exposed. That is the power of asking instead of declaring. When an older man asks questions with depth, he is demonstrating that he is not driven by impulse. He is driven by understanding. And understanding is the foundation of meaningful connection. This is not about tactics. This is about identity. A man who asks better questions has a different relationship with himself. He is curious about his own motivations. He has examined his patterns. He is not afraid of introspection. And that inner relationship determines the quality of his outer relationships. You cannot fake this, but you can develop it by learning to pause before speaking, by becoming comfortable with silence, by valuing truth over validation. And when you do, your questions naturally change. They become slower, deeper, more intentional, and people feel that. So if you take one thing from this, let it be this. Stop trying to impress by telling the world who you are. Start revealing who you are by the quality of questions you ask. Because the man who asks with presence doesn't just start conversations. He changes the way people think about themselves after meeting him. Most people misunderstand what emotional safety actually is. They hear the word safety and immediately associate it with weakness, passivity, or predictability. They think safety kills attraction, they think danger, excitement, and emotional chaos are what create desire. But psychologically, that belief comes from unhealed nervous systems, not truth. Emotional safety does not mean boring. It does not mean compliant. It does not mean harmless. Emotional safety means as regulated strength. And this is where older men who understand themselves operate very differently from men who are still trying to be chosen. Younger women are not impressed by men who chase them emotionally. They are impressed by men who can stay grounded when emotions appear. When someone can sit with intensity without escalating it or shutting it down, it creates a powerful internal response. The nervous system relaxes, the mind opens, trust begins to form. Most men try to create attraction by doing more, talking more, probing more, escalating faster. But attraction deepens when a woman feels she does not have to manage your emotions. When she senses that you are stable within yourself, regardless of her reactions, that stability is rare. Emotional safety is created when a man does not make a woman responsible for how he feels. He does not need reassurance to stay calm. He does not punish honesty. He does not withdraw when something uncomfortable is said. He listens without becoming defensive. He responds instead of reacting. This is not accidental. This comes from inner discipline. A man who has not learned emotional regulation unconsciously looks to others to stabilize him. He seeks validation, attention, or control. And while that may create short-term chemistry, it erodes long-term attraction. Because the moment someone feels emotionally responsible for you, desire begins to fade. Younger women are especially sensitive to this because many have already experienced emotional volatility in relationships. They recognize chaos quickly, and while chaos can feel familiar, it does not feel safe. Here is the psychological truth most people avoid. The nervous system does not confuse safety with boredom. It confuses calm confidence with leadership. When an older man speaks slowly, listens fully, and does not rush emotional moments, he communicates authority without dominance. He does not overpower the space. He anchors it. That anchoring is what allows intimacy to grow. Emotional safety also means allowing someone to be exactly where they are without trying to reshape them to fit your needs. A grounded man does not rush a woman to open up faster than she is ready. He does not pressure vulnerability. He does not reward it with approval or punish it with withdrawal. He understands that vulnerability offered freely is far more meaningful than vulnerability extracted. This is why chasing never works long term. Chasing is not about desire, it is about anxiety, and anxiety is felt immediately. It creates tension in the body, it creates hyper-awareness, it creates pressure. Emotional safety removes pressure. When pressure disappears, authenticity emerges, and authenticity is what deepens attraction beyond surface chemistry. A man who creates emotional safety is not afraid of silence. Silence does not threaten him because he does not rely on constant stimulation to feel connected. He knows that presence does not need noise. In fact, presence is often louder in stillness. This is one of the most overlooked aspects of attraction. Silence held with confidence feels powerful. Silence held with insecurity feels awkward. The difference is internal. Emotional safety also means consistency, not predictability in behavior, but consistency in values and emotional responses. A woman may not know what you will say, but she knows how you will handle moments of tension. She knows you won't explode. She knows you won't disappear. She knows you won't manipulate. That reliability allows her nervous system to relax. And when the nervous system relaxes, desire deepens. Here is something many men resist hearing. You cannot create emotional safety if you are emotionally reactive, and you cannot stop being reactive without self-awareness. A man who is constantly triggered is not dangerous because he is aggressive. He is dangerous because he is unpredictable. Emotional unpredictability forces others to self-regulate around him, and once someone has to manage themselves around you, attraction quietly leaves. Older men who impress younger women have learned how to sit with discomfort without making it someone else's problem. They don't collapse into guilt. They don't rise into anger. They remain present. This presence communicates strength far more clearly than dominance ever could. Emotional safety also requires boundaries. This surprises people. They think safety means saying yes, accommodating, pleasing, but boundaries are what make safety possible. Without boundaries, emotional chaos enters. A man who respects his own limits teaches others how to respect him. And respect is a non-negotiable component of attraction. When a man calmly says no without explanation, apology, or aggression, it signals self-trust. And self-trust is deeply grounding to be around. It makes others feel they can relax because someone stable is holding the frame. This is why emotional safety is not about being nice. It is about being in intentions, clear in responses, clear in values. Ambiguity creates anxiety. Clarity creates calm. Younger women are drawn to men who do not create emotional confusion, who do not send mixed signals, who do not use intensity to mask insecurity, who do not confuse passion with instability. They feel the difference immediately. A grounded man does not chase reassurance because his sense of worth is internal. He does not fear losing someone who is not aligned. He does not cling to potential. He values reality, and that reality-based mindset is what creates emotional safety. Because people feel safest around those who are not trying to escape the present moment. Attraction does not grow when someone feels emotionally hijacked. It grows when someone feels free to be themselves without consequence. This is why emotional safety is not something you perform. It is something you embody. You cannot fake nervous system regulation. You cannot fake inner stability. You cannot fake self-respect, but you can develop them by slowing down your reactions, by becoming curious instead of defensive, by choosing clarity over control, by learning to sit with discomfort instead of avoiding it. And when you do, people feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel calmer around you, more open, more grounded. That calm becomes associated with you. And that is where attraction quietly deepens. So reflect on this. Are people relaxed around you or cautious? Do conversations feel spacious or pressured? Do others feel free to be honest or careful? Because emotional safety is not something you ask for. It is something others feel in your presence. And the man who learns to become that presence does not need to chase desire. Desire naturally finds him. One of the most misunderstood dynamics in attraction is the role of self-respect. Many people believe attraction grows when you show how much you like someone, how flexible you are, how willing you are to adjust yourself to be chosen. But psychologically, the opposite is true. Attraction deepens when a person senses that you do not need their approval to feel whole. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not emotional distance, and it is not indifference. Self-respect is clarity about who you are, what you value, and what you will not compromise. Younger women are not impressed by older men who seek approval subtly through generosity, availability, or emotional overinvestment. They are impressed by men who know themselves well enough to be selective. Because selectiveness signals value. When a man respects himself, he does not chase connection at the expense of his integrity. He does not over-explain his intentions. He does not negotiate his boundaries in the hope of being liked. He understands that being chosen is meaningless if it requires self-betrayal. This is where many men get it wrong. They think desire is created by proving devotion early, by showing consistency before trust is built, by offering emotional labor before emotional safety exists. But this approach communicates something very different than what they intend. It communicates insecurity, and insecurity, no matter how well disguised, erodes attraction. Self-respect changes the entire power dynamic of an interaction. A man who respects himself does not rush closeness. He allows connection to unfold naturally. He is curious but not needy, interested but not attached to outcome. That emotional independence is deeply attractive because it removes pressure. Pressure is the enemy of desire. When a woman senses that a man's sense of worth depends on her response, she unconsciously feels responsible for regulating his emotions. And the moment someone feels emotionally responsible for you, attraction begins to dissolve. Self-respect prevents this dynamic. A self-respecting man understands that not every connection is meant to last. He is not afraid of disinterest. He is not threatened by boundaries. He does not take rejection personally because his identity is not built on external validation. This calm acceptance is often misinterpreted as confidence, but it is deeper than that. It is emotional maturity. Younger women are drawn to this maturity because it feels rare. Many people live in a constant state of emotional negotiation. They adjust themselves to be palatable. They suppress truth to maintain connection. They tolerate misalignment to avoid loneliness. A man who refuses to do this stands out immediately, not because he is cold, but because he is whole. Self-respect also shows up in how a man listens. He listens to understand, not to convince. And when he notices inconsistency, avoidance, or misalignment, he does not argue with it. He observes it. He lets information be information. This is crucial. Many men override red flags because they want potential more than reality. They fall in love with who someone could be instead of who they are. A self-respecting man does not do this. He values truth over fantasy, and truth creates attraction because it creates safety. When a woman realizes she does not have to pretend around a man, that she can be honest without being punished or persuaded, trust forms. And trust is the soil where attraction grows deeper roots. Self-respect also means being willing to walk away. This is one of the most confronting truths in relationships. The ability to walk away is not cruelty. It is self-alignment. A man who cannot walk away is not choosing, he is clinging. And clinging always weakens attraction. Younger women sense this instinctively. They feel the difference between a man who wants connection and a man who needs it. One feels grounded, the other feels heavy. A man who respects himself does not issue ultimatums. He does not threaten withdrawal. He simply aligns his actions with his values. If something no longer feels right, he does not dramatize it. He does not plead. He adjusts his position. That quiet decisiveness is powerful. Self-respect also governs how a man handles desire. He does not confuse desire with entitlement. He understands that attraction is mutual or it is nothing. He does not push for intimacy to validate his masculinity. He allows chemistry to be built through emotional congruence. This restraint is often misread as mystery, but it is not strategy, it is self-containment. And self-containment is attractive because it signals that the man is not ruled by impulse. Philosophically, self-respect is rooted in identity. When a man knows who he is, he does not outsource his worth to another person. He does not need to win someone over to feel significant. He enters relationships from fullness, not lack. This fullness creates generosity without sacrifice, presence without possession, interest without attachment. Younger women who are emotionally aware recognize this instantly. They feel that the man is not trying to extract something from them. He is sharing space, not consuming it. This is why self-respect often feels calming to be around. It removes urgency. It removes emotional bargaining. It removes fear, and fear is incompatible with deep attraction. Many men believe self-respect means being rigid or emotionally closed, but true self-respect allows vulnerability without collapse. A grounded man can be open without losing himself. He can care deeply without abandoning his standards. That balance is rare, and rarity creates value. Self-respect also influences how conflict is handled. A man who respects himself does not avoid conflict to keep the peace. He addresses issues calmly, directly, and without blame. He does not escalate emotion to gain control. He stays anchored. This anchored presence communicates strength far more effectively than dominance ever could. Attraction does not grow when someone feels emotionally managed. It grows when someone feels emotionally met. A self-respecting man meets others where they are without losing where he stands. And this is the key distinction. So many men try to be chosen by lowering themselves. They soften their truth. They tolerate misalignment. They stay silent when something matters to them. They believe compromise is the path to love. But love built on self-abandonment is fragile. Self-respect is not about protecting ego. It is about protecting alignment. When alignment is present, attraction flows naturally. When it is absent, no amount of effort can sustain desire. So reflect honestly. Do your actions align with your values? Do you speak your truth calmly, or suppress it to be liked? Do you choose from wholeness, or fear being alone? Because self-respect is not something you announce. It is something others feel in how you move, speak, and decide. And the man who learns to choose himself without bitterness or defensiveness becomes someone others want to choose too. There is a quiet truth most people resist, because it challenges everything they've been taught about attraction. Younger women are not impressed by age, status, or experience on their own. Those are surface markers. They catch attention briefly, but they do not hold it. What holds attention, what sustains attraction, is depth. And depth is not something you accumulate with time. It is something you earn through introspection. Depth comes from having faced yourself honestly, from having questioned your motivations instead of defending them, from having examined your patterns instead of repeating them. This is why two men of the same age can feel completely different to be around. One feels heavy, rigid, emotionally distant. The other feels grounded, calm, and expansive. The difference is not age, it is integration. Integration means your experiences have been processed, not just lived. It means your pain has informed you, not hardened you. It means your success has humbled you, not inflated you. Younger women are acutely sensitive to this distinction. They can sense whether a man's life has deepened him or merely aged him. Many men assume attraction is created by demonstrating authority, but true authority is not asserted, it is felt. It comes from coherence between who you are, what you believe, and how you behave. When a man speaks from this coherence, there is no contradiction in his presence. His words match his tone matches his energy matches his actions. That alignment is rare, and rarity creates gravity. Depth also shows in how a man relates to uncertainty. Men without depth cling to certainty because it gives them control. They need to be right. They need to appear confident. They avoid nuance because nuance threatens their identity. A man with depth is comfortable saying, "I don't know," without losing his sense of self. He understands that wisdom grows from curiosity, not certainty. Younger women who are psychologically aware recognize this immediately. They are not drawn to men who have answers for everything. They are drawn to men who are willing to explore questions honestly, because exploration signals openness, and openness signals growth. Depth also reveals itself in emotional range. A man with depth is not emotionally flat, nor is he emotionally volatile. He can feel without being overwhelmed. He can express without oversharing. He does not confuse emotional intensity with emotional intimacy. This distinction matters. Many people mistake emotional intensity for connection. They believe strong feelings mean strong bonds, but intensity without depth burns quickly. Depth without intensity lasts. A man who understands this does not rush emotional closeness. He allows intimacy to unfold naturally, layer by layer, as trust develops. Younger women feel safe around this kind of pacing. It tells them they are not being consumed or rushed. They are being met. Depth also influences how a man speaks about life. Men without depth speak in conclusions. They generalize. They blame. They simplify complex human behavior into rigid beliefs. Men with depth speak in understanding. They acknowledge complexity. They hold multiple perspectives without becoming confused. This intellectual humility is deeply attractive because it shows psychological maturity. A man who has integrated his experiences does not need to dominate conversations to feel significant. He does not compete for attention. He listens fully because he is not trying to fill an internal void. His presence feels spacious. Others feel they can breathe around him. That spaciousness is magnetic. Depth also shapes how a man handles desire. A man without depth is driven by impulse. He wants what he wants immediately. He interprets desire as urgency. A man with depth understands desire as information, not command. He can feel attraction without being controlled by it. He can want without needing. This self-mastery is rare, and rarity creates respect. Younger women often say they are attracted to men who feel different, but struggle to explain why. What they are responding to is depth. Depth feels grounded, it feels steady, it feels real. It does not fluctuate based on external validation. Depth also shows in how a man relates to his past. Men without depth are either trapped in nostalgia or burdened by resentment. They relive old victories or rehearse old wounds. Men with depth have integrated their past. They carry lessons, not baggage. This integration creates emotional availability. It allows them to be present instead of reactive. And presence is one of the most attractive traits a man can develop. Depth also demands responsibility. A man with depth does not outsource blame for his emotional state. He does not attribute his dissatisfaction to women, society, or circumstance. He takes ownership of his inner world. This ownership creates stability, and stability is deeply attractive. Many people believe depth makes you serious or heavy. In reality, depth allows lightness. When you are not running from yourself, you can laugh freely. You can enjoy without guilt. You can be playful without needing approval. That ease is contagious. Younger women feel it immediately. They sense when a man is at peace with himself, and peace creates trust. Depth is also what allows a man to challenge without attacking. A man with depth can disagree without becoming defensive. He can question without diminishing. He can hold standards without controlling. This balance is rare because it requires emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence cannot be faked. Younger women who are drawn to older men are not looking for someone to lead them. They are looking for someone who knows himself. Leadership emerges naturally from self-knowledge. Control emerges from insecurity. Depth creates leadership without force. Philosophically, depth is the result of confronting discomfort instead of avoiding it. It comes from sitting with loneliness instead of distracting from it. From questioning identity instead of clinging to labels. From facing fear instead of numbing it. This inner work is invisible, but its effects are undeniable. Younger women are not impressed by men who have lived long. They are impressed by men who have lived consciously, who have allowed life to shape them rather than harden them. Depth also brings discernment. A man with depth does not idealize youth, beauty, or attention. He appreciates them without losing himself to them. He values connection over conquest, alignment over approval. This discernment is attractive because it signals maturity. A man who has depth does not chase novelty to avoid emptiness. He values meaning, and meaning outlasts excitement. If you are wondering how to develop depth, the answer is simple but not easy. You must become willing to sit with yourself, to question your patterns, to notice where you seek validation, to examine where you avoid truth. Depth grows where honesty is practiced. And when depth is present, everything else becomes secondary. Age becomes irrelevant. Status becomes incidental. Words become fewer, but heavier. So here is what to reflect on. Are you becoming more defensive with time, or more curious? Are you accumulating experiences or integrating them? Are you aging or are you deepening? Because the man who chooses depth does not need to impress. His presence speaks before he ever does.